Ken Nowaczewski. I've known Reverend Ken since 2012, and I know there are people in this room that have known him longer than that. He's been a friend to us, a teacher, a mentor, an inspiration, a counselor, and so much more. And on Sundays like this, we look forward to what he has to share with us and teach us, because he has a wealth of inspiration and knowledge. So help me welcome Reverend Ken Nowaczewski to the platform.
Thank you, Reverend Carol. It always makes it so hard to follow that act. Okay. This morning, I want to share with you a sermon which I originally did over 40 years ago. And I knew nothing about sermons or how to give a sermon. And it really scared me. And I said to Spirit, you have to do it. I cannot. I don't know what to do. I don't know how to begin. So, as we have it, Spirit did do it. I was sitting at my typewriter, and my first typewriter, the computer, first computer was the old Macintosh computer I had. And that's where I did it. And had no idea what was being done until it was over with, and I read it through. And it contained so much information that I can't even begin to paraphrase it. So I am going to just read it to you today, verbatim. Friends, as spiritualists, we learn that God is in each of us, but do we really know what this means? Can we really talk with God? And if we did, what would he say? I want you to take this journey inward with me now and listen to what God might say if he spoke directly to us. Walk with me, the guiding voice of Father Consciousness at the center of your soul, and I will lead you gently onward and raise your spirit and your thoughts to heights of truth. I am the light within you, and I'm also the light of the world and the power by which it was made. Contrary to popular appearances, I am not a lazy God who created the world and rested, then kept on resting, indifferent to the fate of the many souls I made. The truth is, I am always with you, no matter where you are, for in me you move and live and have your being. If you would become conscious of my presence, look squarely in my face, stretch your mind and your heart, and take a long, thorough, independent look. I will be everywhere, looking back at you. If you look at the sky, you will know that I am blue. If you look at the night, you will know that I am black. If you look at a leaf, you will know I am green. If you look at the midday sun, I will dazzle you with my brightness. If you look into the eyes of your husband or wife, you will see me twinkle. If you look at the ground on which you stand, you will know it is holy. Every particle of dirt under your feet is a manifestation of my consciousness expressing in matter. And in this microcosm structure of this dirt exists the unchallenged pattern of my universal perfection. If you could behold these particles of dirt with extended vision, you would see that they are vibrant with my eternal light. This radiant light of my presence is in all things, from the lowly weeds to the stately trees, to far-flung galaxies in space. The kitten curled up on your lap is as much a part of me as the baby on your knee. Normally, you may not think of me when you look at such common things as weeds or trees or babies. You are more likely to think of me when telescopes peer into the depths of space and bring back news of all-inspiring universe. The reaches of stars and galaxies and cosmic clouds, or when you hear a mysterious mumblings and rumblings about dimensions and other realms. A baby, you say, or a weed, or a tree, is just something formed from the dust of the earth. And what is that dust of the earth except a part of my all-inspiring, all-encompassing cosmos, which just reminded you of me? Is there anything less awe-inspiring about a baby than a galaxy? Except, of course, the difference in size. Perhaps if size were to be a consideration, the baby would be the most awe-inspiring because so much of my light has been contained in such a compact bundle. When you felt lost and desperate, yearning for a sign from me, you were surrounded by signs of beauty and growth and color, and you did not recognize them as being mine. My form is familiar to you. I built your world out of my spirit and filled it with an all-pervading presence so you would know indisputably that in me you live and move and have your being, and in you I live and move and have my being. In 1,000 different places, you keep searching for me, finding tidbits of information about me everywhere you look. Though most of it turns out to be intangible and incomplete, failing to show the way of my first-hand consciousness, of my presence. Nevertheless, the restlessness in your soul motivates you to keep the search continuing. Deep beneath your heart is a tantalizing sureness that oneness with me can be found. Yes, I seem ever to elude you, to stay just beyond reach, to lure you to onward for a time, and then desert you in confusion and frustration. All the while, I am so close to you, I have been overlooked. You have taken me for granted until you no longer recognize me. And as you reach outward hoping to find me, I hide in your mind, in your heart, and in your soul. I hide in the consciousness within you. For I am your well of living waters, your reservoir of life force. And if you will learn to draw from my resources eagerly and deliberately, these resources will increase and multiply until your entire being is transformed into a vessel unceasingly running over with holy radiance. My presence as your inner consciousness is just as infinite as my unending presence in the cosmos all around you. And like an iceberg, which is 9/10 under the sea, which is out of sight, I live within you, in the form of mind, with 9/10 of me being submerged below your conscious awareness. The expanse of an iceberg underwater is just as real as that part that extends above the surface. And the expanse of mind submerged below your conscious awareness is just as real as the surface mind with which you do your thinking. The submerged mind is like a sunken treasure chest, chock full of wonders, waiting for you to discover it and draw it to the surface. For the most part, it lies neglected and untouched, even though I have stored within it all of my powers, all my wisdom, all the truth in the cosmos. The record of existence, the force that quickens and perfects, and the place and the peace that passes understanding. The love that conquers all is all there within. This submerged mind is your center of divine wisdom, and an area of mind that does not think in the normal sense of the word. It knows. The nature of it is pure and holy. It has never been touched by limited or negative belief. It is a living part of me. When you have learned to elevate the submerged mind and integrate it with your surface mind, your being will take on its holy nature. And you will come to find that, as Jesus taught, it is indeed not robbery to be equal with God. Your submerged mind extends into the central area of feeling, the heart. I live also in your heart as a reservoir of love that is immeasurable. Your hopes and dreams and high aspirations rise up from this reservoir of feeling. They are the echoes of my still small voice, bursting through to your surface mind, like music from the silence, forever urging you onward toward more expression of your hidden skills and talents. Unfortunately, however, much more than hopes and dreams have been born into you. For mind and heart has always worked together to form a powerful force. When thought combines with feeling, activity is set in motion. Things are brought about. The more intense the feeling, the greater the force. And it is for this very reason that many troubles facing the world today are brought into existence. My children have misused their thoughts. They have misused their feelings, innocently doing so, of course, not knowing of the mighty forces set into motion when thoughts and feelings blend. It is because of this misuse of thought that my planet Earth has been perverted. In actuality, it is a perfect world, which I prepared with my tender care and filled abundantly with my presence. However, since thoughts and feelings are living forces, and my children let their thinking sink to imperfect levels, imperfect conditions are in operation, abounding and rebounding, superimposed over my beautiful planet like a sinister spider web. The web of destructive forces is merely the subcreation of the surface mind, that strictly human side of the mind, which evolved away from the Father consciousness and left my treasure of wisdom beneath the level of awareness. Jesus called this web of subcreation appearances, knowing that it lacked a foundation in reality. He taught the people of the world not to judge by appearances. He knew the power of the subcreation was the power of the surface mind, and power the surface mind was giving it. By belief in negative conditions and fear of destructive forces. Jesus knew also of the divine God within you, the Father consciousness, which is a part of every living soul submerged deeply in the subconscious mind. Jesus taught, he who is within you is stronger than any power without. The creative power of thought and feeling originating in the submerged mind is 10,000 times as great as that originating in the surface mind. For this reason, the destructive forces can be overcome by anyone who learns to integrate the surface mind with the Holy Father consciousness. When I created you in my image and likeness, I made you perfect and placed you in a perfect world. I gave you a mind which is whole. It is one with me. In that one mind, however, are rates of vibration, resulting in many levels of consciousness. At the summit of the highest level of human consciousness, there is a door through which you can slip and be free of all the influences you are under in the sub-creation. Remember, in calling the sub-creation appearances does not mean that they are imaginary. Actually, they are quite real, painfully, sometimes inhumanly real and active. Within this web of collective forces are included many experiences which has been accepted as a way of life. You accept without question the way of life is wars, conflicts, violence, strife, and troubles in any form, poverty, disease, old age, the cycles of death and rebirth, all accepted as a struggle of mankind to understand himself and his universe. Since such imperfections have been accepted without question, very few of my children have tried to find perfection by coming to realize that I have already given you, to each of you and every one of you, the mind that knows all things and has all power, and a life force which cannot age, since it is the essence of my eternal youth. Instead of reaching this point, some of my children think I have thrown them into the searing earthly experience so they can learn to face troubles and live with them. Some think it is a way of punishing them for past sins. Others think the reason for it all is that I am attempting to form a perfect being by slow trial and error methods, shaping a little here, rounding a little there, a problem which is supposed to go on for thousands of lifetimes, while each is honed down to the essence I want. Still, others believe that I am testing to see if they are worthy to inherit heaven after death. If found unworthy, the belief goes, Satan will inherit the soul, and it will be tormented forever in a lake of fire and brimstone. All of these stories are products of the surface mind, misrepresentations of my word. Jesus came to earth to set men free from such belief, to let my children know that what they think in their hearts, they are. How do you think in your heart? Think of your heart as the area of subconscious mind. This heart is a very important area to understand. It is like a vast reservoir being filled with whatever you pour into it through your surface mind. The quality of the ideas in your personal reservoir determines the quality of your actions and your reactions. If you have filled your reservoir with accepted human beliefs and limitation, then you are limited in all your actions. But if you are willing to empty out your heart, let it be filled with eternal truth, you will experience a transformation. Your heart is your creative center. It is always transmuting the thoughts and emotions with which you fill it into manifested form. For instance, why is it that the things that Job feared came upon him? He kept his fears in his mind, and they were so alive for him, so intense, they blended with his feelings and fell into creative reservoir, where they were transformed into the very substance of the image in his surface mind. This creativeness in your heart center is not a bizarre flaw in the way I made you. It was my intent that the desires of your heart should always be fulfilled. Through proper use of this creative reservoir, anything that the Father has can be manifested in your own life if you are persistent and your desires are intense. However, since I created only perfection, I did not mean for you to fill your minds with images of evil, letting these evil images drop into the creative reservoir and come back to you manifested. Your ever-active heart center works on the automatic basis. It projects a mold, as it were, into your uncreated spiritual elements, and this mold assumes the shape of whatever has been strongly visualized in the surface mind. The heart center does not screen out experiences and materialize only that which is good for you. Since the surface mind itself is the screening master, And once the images are falling into the feelings and has been sustained there, the manifestation of the image perceives is automatic. Therefore, emptying out your surface mind is essential to your ability to realize and experience the perfection of my cosmos. You can experience perfect oneness with me just as readily as you have been experiencing an utter sense of separation from me. The secret is to control the point at which your attention is focused. All my children are gods with creative powers similar to my own. And by controlling that power, by controlling that point of consciousness, the point of focus, the subcreation can be erased just as quickly as it was brought about. It has never pleased me to have you suffer from the unpleasant experiences created by misthinking. And I have set no rigid rules that say you must accept the consequences of your mistakes. Instead, I have tried to tell you, you reap what you have sown. As long as your surface mind is drifting here and there between the poles of good and evil, your feelings are implanted by this surface mixture. But as soon as you accept the truth of my eternal perfection and learn to master the surface mind, controlling the reservoir of feeling, your level of consciousness is elevated to a state where all evil conditions fall under the dominion of my light. It was on this high level that Jesus lived, on the inside of that door to your submerged mind. On this level, he was able to erase the appearances of the subcreation, and not only did he overcome his own death, but restored the bodies of others who had died. Lazarus could have overcome death himself if he had accepted these truths thoroughly enough to make them active in his creative feeling. He was accepting these teachings with a surface mind, but they had not become subconscious. He had not grasped the feeling of the truth fully enough to drop into the heart center and manifest as the reality of his experience. His subconscious still harbored the old belief that death and the grave are necessary steps along the road to eternity, and therefore he died. As do all who hold to this belief, since there is so much evidence in its favor. Jesus wept because Lazarus was in possession of the truth that makes men free from earthly law. But he had been unable to let go of the old long enough to put on the new. Lazarus was reaping what he had sown in the subconscious. The earthly law of cause and consequences had done its destructive work, and still, this did not stop Jesus. My power within is always greater than any power without. And when Jesus said, Lazarus, come forth, the law of cause and consequences was superseded, and even the decaying body cells responded to his unspoken recognition of my omnipresent life. As soon as you refuse to be blinded by the web of subcreation and cease using your mixed thought forces to sustain it, it would dissolve before you. First, individually, then collectively. And you will be lifted free into the promised land of good. Then you will see me as I am, and know at last it was never my will to have you boiling in such a torrid earthly stew pot. You have always been willing to believe, have you not, in a God who has all wisdom and all power. Then why should you be deceived into thinking that I was unable to make you perfect when I created you? The truth is that I created you in my image and likeness, and you are destined to realize this equality in its fullest measure. The missing link in this realization has been the surface mind and its tendency to remain focused in the wrong direction. I stand at the door of your consciousness, knocking. If you will only turn toward me, emptying yourself out to receive my spirit, I will pour so much light into the reservoir of your heart that it will run over with goodness and mercy all the days of your eternal life. By the power of this light, your subcreation reservoir of feeling can be lifted up to its original purity, thereby exalting your reactions, causing you to put on the living crown of life, to open the door into the subconscious and into the consciousness which has been closed to you. When this happens, the old order of life will pass away. The subcreated web, which seemed invincible as enclosing bars of iron, will melt and dissolve before you. This renovation does not depend on time or place, but slowly on your acceptance and application of the truth. And the truth is, you really are created in the image and likeness of your God. Thank you very much. It was a pleasure serving you.